Warning. The following program is a satirical look at Indigenous news, politics, and current events. Reconciliation is advised.
Anin, bonjour, welcome to the Laughing Drum, my friends. Television so deeply and profoundly Indigenous, we wear star blanket onesies. We've got an exciting show ahead of us. The Red Power panel is here, and Cree comic Howie Miller is here as well. But first, as always, let's see what's been happening on the news. In divisive pipeline news, Ottawa continues to push for the expansion of Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain Pipeline. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau even had to interrupt an international diplomatic trip to meet with squabbling premiers and put his foot down.
Throwing the might and the money of the federal government behind Alberta to get a pipeline built to the BC coast.
The Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion is of vital strategic interest to Canada. It will be built.
It's that kind of talk that pisses off British Columbia Premier John Horgan. Here's what he tweeted. "We have a duty to make sure the rights of all First Nations who could be affected by an oil spill are respected. The national interest is not served if we force the risk of catastrophe on unwilling communities, nor does it advance meaningful reconciliation." But I guess forcing the risk of catastrophe on unwilling communities doesn't apply to, say, massive hydroelectric dams like Site C, which, you kind of forced on First Nations right after getting elected. So what are First Nations in BC saying? It's not so simple.
No, Kinder Morgan!
Well, the political maneuvering continues. Those here say, so will the protests. Well, some First Nations are strongly opposed to this pipeline and are challenging it in court. Dozens of others have signed lucrative agreements with Kinder Morgan and are frustrated that they could lose out on millions if the project doesn't go ahead.
Well, thankfully, there's a national organization that represents First Nations chiefs that can help mediate this. Here's what the Assembly of First Nations had to say. And Federal Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations, Carolyn Bennett, also weighed in.
With BC and Alberta, and Indigenous groups that are protesting the site. So it's not important?
She doesn't say much, but man, she wins the title of fastest white woman in a First Nation scarf, hands down. In Winnipeg, 7 First Nations have signed a deal that will turn a vacant army base into an urban reserve.
The Treaty 1 group wants to establish an economic development zone, also known as an urban reserve.
You are our new neighbors.
A deal absolutely historic and potentially very lucrative.
I think it's $1 billion, in some ways $1 billion opportunity or more.
That urban reserve will be smack dab in the middle of one of Winnipeg's most affluent neighborhoods. Sensing fear, National Chief Perry Bellegarde attempted to soothe the apprehension.
When we first started talking about urban reserves, we had to get rid of the misconceptions. Everybody thought, oh boy, urban reserves, there's going to be a bunch of turned over cars and skinny dogs running all over. No, it's not like that. This is a good thing.
I like how Perry got a little res there. It's not like that. But seriously, when white people moved into this area, they pushed us onto reserves and sent our kids to residential schools. I'm pretty sure you can handle a few res dogs. In newspaper columnist news, a newspaper columnist has left many annoyed with his assertion that people are left annoyed by the CBC's coverage of Indigenous issues. John Doyle writes for the Globe and Mail. In a recent scathing critique of CBC's flagship newscast, The National, Doyle wrote that his readers, quote, are irritated by what they see as an overemphasis on Indigenous-related stories and content, unquote. He also added that, and I quote again, the latter complaint isn't made in a rancorous, dismissive manner. It's just that some readers who watch The National feel the coverage of wrongs done is relentless they roll their eyes, unquote. In other words, my readers aren't racist, they're just intolerant assholes who long for the days when people who aren't white were invisible. Or something. We have to take a short break, but when we come back, I'll sit down with Cree comic Howie Miller. Go make a canned meat sandwich and then come right back. Welcome back to the Laughing Drum, my beloved Laughing Drumlets. My guest tonight is a Cree comic from Alberta who travels the globe plying his trade. He's been featured at comedy festivals across the country and was the star of his own Comedy Now special. And of course, you probably recognize him from Caution May Contain Nuts. And of course, Delmar and Marta right here on APTN. Howie Miller, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good, great to be here. Great to be here.
So how does a Cree kid from Alberta become a famous comedian? What was the path that led you here?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out the fame part, but you know, class clown. Being the youngest in a family, you're always trying to get more attention, I think. So I was always very good at that. My mother always had a sense of humor, and that helped a lot. And I wasn't good at anything else other than making people laugh. So this is how I ended up.
Yeah. And it's something you've at least entertaining is something you've passed on to your children, am I right?
You know what? You always want the best for your kids, and you never want them to follow in your footsteps, especially in show business. So my oldest son, Tyson, was in the Twilight movies.
Yes.
That was a Bolt of Lightning audition. He went and stood in line in Vancouver with 5,000 other people, and at the end of the day, it was him and 5 guys. And then a couple of weeks, they phoned him, and he got the part to be in Twilight as one of the Wolfpack. And then my next son is in the National Theatre School right now in Montreal, and he's got his own sketch show, his digital sketch show, called The Folklords.
Yes.
And he does improv with his buddy Ben, and they travel the world playing their humor everywhere they can, and now their sketch show's up. So hopefully the kids will start taking care of me, so I don't have to travel anymore. And then I have 2 other sons. One's a hotel manager, and the other, my youngest son, Kyle, works behind the camera in the production end, in the props department on production. So really proud of them, and that's really the highlight of my life.
You know what? I thought I did my homework. I had no idea that was your son in the Folklords.
Yeah.
I've been watching their stuff. That's crazy.
Todd Hausman is he's the next one in line. Actually, I use him in Caution sometimes when it has to be a younger version of me, because I don't know if you know, I'm quite old. And it's funny because they have to darken him up and lighten me up a little bit if we're in the same shot. But when I was his age, out of all 4 of my sons, he looks the most like I used to look. So that's why I use him a lot.
So you've got the show on APTN. I mean, you've got Caution May Contain Nuts, but you've also got Delmar and Marta.
Yeah, Delmar and Marta. We did Caution for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then the heads here, they really liked the Delmar and Marta characters, and they wanted to do their own spin-off sitcom. So we did that for a season. And then I think they went, no, we like the Caution show better. So, but we went back to Caution because, and it's easier. It's more fun to do a big sketch show because there's more stuff you can do. You know, with Delmar and Marta, we were just on the couch and we're just dealing with the 2 characters. With the sketch show, there's so much more. We're mall pirates, we're spaceship captains, we're cowboys. You know, it's amazing what we can do. So.
And speaking of Delmar and Marta, there's something I want to show you here. Something that's been at APTN for quite a while.
Oh.
For those of you who don't know the Delmar and Marta characters.
That's that's me. That's me. It's always hard to tell which one's me.
Yeah.
This is Sheldon Elter. Elter. He was in the top 13 on Canadian Idol a while ago, but that's the best actor in the world. If he can bring out this in me, he's amazing.
I was going to ask you about Sheldon. You've worked with him quite a bit. How did you guys meet?
It was actually the producers of the Caution show originally. APTN was looking for some comedy.
Yeah.
So we were in Edmonton, and the producers approached Sheldon because he was part of a comedy troupe called Blacklisted, and they asked him, "Do you know any other native comedians?" And he said Howie Miller. So they contacted me, and I guess the rest is history. Me and Sheldon had met previously doing stand-up, because he used to do stand-up. And we actually went to New York on NBC's dime because they had their diversity program happening. So they wanted to show that they were, you know, we want other people, other races on this show, so we're going to bring them down. They're going to do plays, but we're not going to put them on anything. We're just going to show that we're doing that. So we get to hang out in New York for a week, so that was nice. But Sheldon is, he travels. I travel the world doing jokes and, you know, and making fun of things, and he's the best actor I've ever met and ever had the privilege to work with, because I do this trick in show business. I surround myself by really talented people so I don't have to work as hard.
That cutout there. So when I came to APTN, they were talking about this cutout of you, and then when they found out you were going to be on the show, they said, "Oh, we got to find that cutout." That thing kept going missing. I think people would take it home, right?
Yeah,
and
for parties.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, it would pop up in the strangest places. So somebody would like, they'd put out an email saying, "Oh, the cutout is missing," and then they'd find it in the elevator, or they'd find it, and like it was just popping up all over the place. So we should
hashtag that with something, and whoever take it, they have to take selfies with it.
Yeah, we'll pop it up.
Try to get it around the world.
So what's next for Howie Miller? You've been traveling quite a bit.
Yeah, I travel around. I never really know how much I've done until after the fact when somebody says you've been traveling. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of touring, doing stand-up now, because I try to get all the stand-up done before I do another taping of a season of something. So, but right now it's kind of like pitch season. So I'm going to be pitching stuff to APTN, and I've got some stuff going to CBC.
You hear that, APTN?
I hope they're listening.
Yeah.
But staying at home, writing, and doing stand-up is what I've been doing for the last 20 years. So that's what I'm continuing to do. How much of your
background, like how much of being Cree, how much of being First Nations, how much does that factor into your comedy?
You know what? When I was starting out, I didn't want to be the native comedian because people were saying, "Oh, you've got a niche," and I felt that was kind of dishonorable in a way, and I didn't want to do any dishonor to myself or my race or my culture. But as I grew older, I said, you know what, I have an opportunity to be a voice and educate people in a humorous way. So that's where I really pride myself on doing when I'm doing my stand-up. The jokes come out as stereotypical stories about natives, but underneath is an education sort of thing that some people pick up on. And I'm very happy when they do. They always shake my hand afterwards. You know, when you were talking about that, I got that joke that you were saying. And I go, oh, good, that's the point, right? Because I want to educate people as well as entertain and make them laugh.
Yeah, that's a tough balance.
It is a tough balance, but, and it's all me. You know, some comedians say, they have their stories and whatnot. But I can honestly say 90% of my act is stuff that's happened to me or been around me. Because I have to write what I know. Yeah. I'm horrible at making up stuff. So.
Well, I'm going to ask you to make something up. Let's get serious for a second.
All right.
There's a lot of talk about whitewashing in Hollywood right now. Mm-hmm. So roles that were originally written for people of color or even gender, they get changed when Hollywood gets a hold of them. If Hollywood was going to make Howie Miller the movie, which white actor would you want to play you?
And it's unfortunate because they're all, Chris Farley would have been the first one I would have thought of, or John Candy. And I'm like, well, we got to start thinking about our health, people, because the bigger we get, your lifespan. That's a really tough question because I've never thought about it because I've always thought that I would do a great job at playing me.
Howie Miller is Howie Miller.
Howie Miller with the Howie Miller dancers. I've never really thought about it. You want somebody that's very talented. Yeah. You want somebody that's not going to do a bad job, obviously. Somebody who can act. Somebody that has comedic timing. That's a tough one. Maybe Kristen Wiig, I think. Yeah. She's hilarious.
Yes, she is.
So I think I'd go for her.
One more very serious question. Sure. Are you familiar with Billy Jack, the Indigenous action hero? It was 1960s, 1970s.
Yes.
He used to take his boots off and he would roundhouse kick people
He'd have the denim outfit, the black cowboy hat.
I have a copy of that hat here. So he used to go around and he would roundhouse kick bad guys in the face. And that was his thing. If you could time travel and you could transform yourself into Billy Jack, Which historic figure would you time-traveling Billy Jack Roundhouse kick in the face?
John A. MacDonald, hands down, instantly.
You're the second person on the show that I've asked that question that has said John A. MacDonald. You know what?
Yeah.
He's going to get it. Howie Miller, before you go, we're almost out of time here, but there's something I want to give you. Something I give all of my guests on this show is Laughing Drum canned luncheon meat. That's actual luncheon meat.
And it has the key.
And it has the key.
It's got the key. This is my hotel room. This is my snack. I cannot wait. I don't even need bread. I'm gonna eat it now.
Howie Miller, thanks so much for coming on our little show. You can catch him in one of his thousands of live shows across the country or on the APTN program, Caution May Contain Nuts. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, the Red Power panel is going to tear truth a new one. Don't go away. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate that.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Did you know we got the social medias?
Don't lie.
It's true. Like the Laughing Drum on Facebook and follow us on Twitter right now.
Welcome back to the show. The Red Power panel is here, and they are ready to tell us what's what and when was who, and they're going to do it all while being Indigenous. This week, the Red Power panel is more of a Red Power duo, but that's fine. They are the Ernest Mooney-ass of Indigenous comedians / Elvis impersonators, Jerry the Big Bear Barrett, and a comic whose mustache is about to split off and start its own act, Sasha Mark. Back to you both.
He's the Groucho Marx of
Indigenous comedy. Just needs a little cigar and he's good to go. We start in television land, where America's sweetheart, Ellen DeGeneres, is pissing off the Inuit with renewed calls to end the commercial seal hunt. Well, on the surface, it seems like it won't affect Inuit. They say they actually depend on the seal hunt beyond just eating them. They sell products too, and now more markets will be closed to them. Now, to the best of my knowledge, Ellen hasn't responded to Inuit concerns. Red Power panel, do you think she knows, cares, or is even oblivious?
I think that, I think her heart is in the right place. I do empathize with that, and I do like Ellen. But I think in this situation, when it comes to, the Inuit, I think Ellen DeGeneres is being Ellen ungenerous, I think it's... No, it's, and, at the end of the day, it's really important that, Inuit people can, practice and, make a living off what they're doing. And, right now I'm having none of it. And I'm having none of it. And, it's kind of like you, Ellen, you pissing me off. And I know these are bad. I look like a dad now. But at this point, I think UConn, make things better. And I'm sorry if I am the white horse in this situation, but it's about Canadian territory.
That was beautiful, Jerry. What do you think? Does she know or care?
Well, I certainly care. I certainly care about our Inuit brothers and sisters trying to make a living off the land, of course. They've been there for 10,000 years and surviving. They've got that down to a fine art, and so I don't think Ellen's done her homework, really, and I don't think she knows how much we depend on the seal meat and the fur and whatnot.
Yeah. I don't know if this question applies to you because you're vegan, my friend.
Yes.
I suppose you could make the comparison.
Yeah.
Is hunting seal any less humane than the massive beef, pork, or chicken industries?
I think it's you look at seals and how they are integrated in Inuit culture, and it's a way that they do to survive. When we look at the meat industry, I don't think it's actually super necessary for the survival of people. So I think it's really important, and we're seeing that because of these petitions against seal clubbing. I definitely see where people are coming from, but it's a difficult issue because a lot of Inuit people are losing work, and it's really affecting their families and homes right now, and they are responding in a way that is helpful, but a lot of people aren't seeing that too.
What I see, honestly, is Sasha here. I understand your position. If you could just take your glasses off and look really sad for a moment.
No
really
problem.
Sad. He looks like a baby seal. Somebody's going to club this guy if he gets a booking up in Nunavut. I'm sorry. He's done. All right. What I like about, what I don't think Ellen DeGeneres understands, will you hold that for me, please? It's my booty call.
Yes.
Is that, you know, the Inuit have depended on the seal and caribou and all the wildlife up there to survive for thousands of years. And of course, a pair of sealskin boots. This is from an artist, a fashion designer here in Winnipeg, Edna Nabis at Creations Fashions in Winnipeg. These boots are, you know, are one of a kind, obviously, but thanks to, this is what I don't think Ellen understands, is that it helps people survive. They use all the seal parts to survive.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, beyond just eating them, there's a commercial value for Inuit as well, yeah. So, if you could sit Ellen down and tell her about this issue, what would you say? If you were to appear on the Ellen show, what would you say, Jerry?
Well, what I just said. There are so many delicious recipes for seal meat as well. I'd set her down, and we'd have a gourmet dish of seal flipper pie. And seal flipper pie is one thing, but then what our friends on the East Coast do, they also add screech to the sauce to give it a bit of extra taste there, and bring your own salt and pepper. But I think it would be awesome if we pulled up in you know, the Res limousine in front of Ellen's house and kind of brought out a seal, maybe clubbed it in front of her, I don't know, and then served her up some seal flipper pie.
Sasha, what would you say?
I'd be like, I'm a big fan. Just stop, please, you know? just like, can we talk a little bit? I think that's how I'd approach that.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time, but there's something I want to pick your brains about, something that's been in the news now. Well, it's not specifically an Indigenous story, but if we are indeed on the brink of World War III, then I guess we're all affected by Trump's recent bombing of sites in Syria. Should we be panicking and considering cannibalism to survive at this point? Jerry, let's start with you.
Yes. I agree. Cannibalism is probably going to happen with the apocalypse, and my first tasty treat will be Ellen DeGeneres.
Yes. Problem solved. Sasha?
You know, I looked into this, and as long as it's consensual, it's vegan, you know? Like, you know? So it's fine. You know?
I think cannibalism is it's rarely consensual, but I don't know. One more question, and then we got to go. If Russia was going to launch nukes, and you had a bomb shelter you could stock up with anything you wanted, what would it be, Jerry?
Well, first of all, I'd have to take my wife. But then again, as you know, I'm an Elvis impersonator, so of course I would want to take all my Elvis stuff down into the bunker with me.
Look at that.
Because what I would do, dressed as Elvis, is I would go from bunker to bunker, because we're going to need entertainment during the apocalypse, and I would go around giving Ojibwe Elvis shows to each of the bunkers, and you know, take a fiddle and a guitar.
And with that, I know our people will survive forever.
Yeah.
Sasha, you got a bunker? What are you going to bring down there?
I think, for me, I would just get some Wi-Fi, a nice candlelit room, a big bed, a laptop right there, open it up onto a website, and then have some lotion, and then I'm just going to look at, you know, face cleansing routines, you know? I think that's, yeah, for 1,000 years, you know?
I think that's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you so much for being here, Red Power Duo. And special thanks to Howie Miller, comedian Howie Miller, for sitting down with me as well. Have a good night, folks, and we'll see you back here next Tuesday. This is Elvis.